So, did you slip on our red carpet, Rupert?
Not yet. No. I'll try later.
All right, so how has been your day in Munich so far?
Well, the weather has been amazing. I've had a really great day just doing press for the film that I think is going to be shown this evening. Mm-hmm. It's called here Royal Night rather than Royal Night Out. Anyway, so I've been doing a bit of promotion and meeting a few people, and it's been great so far. Mm-hmm.
So this new film, tell us a little bit more about it. I know you've been talking about it all day long, but not to this crowd. So.
No, this film is made by a great director called Julian Jarrett, who has done lots of other amazing films, and it's about a historical moment that has been slightly embroidered, which is namely the evening of VE Day in 1945. At the end of the Second World War, when Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret went out into the crowds to watch their parents, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, come out onto the balcony and do that waving thing that happens on the front of Buckingham Palace. And the true story is that they went out there, and in fact the Queen wrote in her diary that they stayed out until I think about 4 a.m. But our story is rather like a kind of Roman holiday type of story. It's slightly embroidered, and it's a story about these two caged princesses who have one night of freedom, and it's a very sweet story.
And you play their father, King George VI.
I play King George VI, and which is the role you will probably know that Colin Firth got the Oscar for.
Exactly.
So it hasn't been easy, and I've needed a lot of therapy. But it's my role in the film really is a kind of, aside from it being a film about a royal family and royalty, it's really a film in a way about families and parents being concerned and frightened for the future of their children. And so my role as King George really is the role of any terrified parent who sees the future very clearly and who knows that his children are possibly not equipped to face it.
Right, but it's not the first time that you play an English king.
No, this is my
English kings before.
My 5th king, and I've done 2 queens too. I started my career playing Titania, Queen of the Fairies, in A Midsummer Night's Dream at school, and I followed that up by playing Mary Stuart in Schiller's Mary Stuart, and but then I moved on to kings, and I played Charles I of England, Charles II of England, George IV of England, and now George VI. And, of course, Prince Charming in Shrek.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Why do you think that is? Why do people come to you and ask you, Rupert, please play another king?
I suppose the kings, it's a good role for when there's an in-between age in movies between being a young man and an old man. And so actually in the middle of that are some roles as kind of kings, middle-aged kings. So I've kind of cornered the market. Next stop, when I see a broomstick flying by, I'll become a witch.
So we know that you have a special weakness for Oscar Wilde.
Yes.
A special love, one could say, for the work of Oscar Wilde, for the life of Oscar Wilde, and if I'm informed correctly, you plan a film?
Yes, I have a special, particular love and obsession, really, actually, to be quite honest, with my film about Oscar Wilde.
Yes. So tell us about it.
It's taken me quite a few years to get it together, and the strange thing about it is that a lot of the support I've had for making it has come from here in Bavaria, so it just shows how strange life is. When you come up with a film, you probably all know this, but you have to find, particularly in the European kind of modus operandi. You have to find backers from every country, and little by little you build up little pockets of money that go into a big pot, and hopefully by the end you find your budget. And getting the first one is always can be the hardest. And the first support I really got in terms of funding was from the guy who is doing this film tonight, Marcus Zimmer and Concord Films. And a little after that, I managed to get a deal with the sales company Beta. Yes. And then a little after that, I managed to get a substantial piece of funding from the state of Bavaria, which has been really fantastic for me because it's given me a kind of foundation of finance with which to attack the rest of the world.
Yes, but I think we have to underline the fact that you actually plan to direct this film and that it will be your first film as a director, right?
Yes, I've written it, I'm directing it, and even though I auditioned many actors, I decided to cast myself as in the leading role.
As Oscar Wilde.
As Oscar Wilde, I'm playing Oscar Wilde.
So,
yes.
Yeah. All right. So. What's the film about? I mean, it's about Oscar Wilde. We know that.
The film is about Oscar Wilde.
But it's called The Happy Prince.
It's called The Happy Prince, and it really concerns the life of Oscar Wilde in exile. Most of the films that have already been made about Oscar Wilde always take you up until the moment that he goes into prison. And for me, the most exciting part of his life is his life in exile as a kind of vagrant. He was someone who was incredible. One of the things that really attracts me to him is the fact that he was a huge star and lived a life of complete luxury. And then by the end, he was kind of sitting toothless in an old suit on the boulevard, kind of smelling slightly of urine. And he was a vagrant by the end of his life. So I love that journey. It's a very, very moving story as well, I think. Mm-hmm.
So is it based on a book? Is it based on your research?
It's based on a lot of research, and it's pretty historically true, I think it's going to be a great. Well, I know it's going to be, actually. It's taken me so long to do now. If I sound a bit conceited about it, it's because I feel it's gone on for years and years and years. The struggle, you can't imagine what it's like trying to get a film together because you're constantly hit with rejection, negativity. You always have to reorganize yourself and start again. But now, the great thing about that is it makes you feel very sure about the thing you're doing because either you give up or you carry on. And each time you carry on, it's because actually you know a little bit more about what you're doing. And so I feel very, very sure about it. And I'm excited because when I was a kid in 1989, we were meant to be starting in Europe, in the whole European scheme, a European cinema. And in a way, we never managed to achieve that. We've stayed within our national confines. And of course, it's very hard to find a unified language for cinema in Europe. It's not like being America. But I feel that with my film, first of all, it stars actors from England, France, Italy and Germany. It speaks in 4 different languages, naturally, without any subtitle or effort. It just is how it goes. And I think it is about one of the great punctuation points in European history between the 19th century and the 20th century. So I have a feeling that it's a really good the elusive European film is what I'm hoping it's going to be.
If your finished film carries over just half of the passion we are feeling now, it will be a great film.
Let's hope. Thank you.
Well, one of the reasons that you are here, you have already mentioned. That's the new film, which will also come out in German theaters, of course,
in October.
Released by Concord Film. The other reason, of course, is that you will get your CineMerit Award tonight.
Yes, and I'm a little embarrassed about that, to be honest, because I don't really feel up to this point that I've achieved enough to get it. I mean, I'm very thrilled and excited, but I feel that really I'll deserve it next year or the year after.
We obviously think that you deserve it right now, and you will get it tonight. And we chose a few films that you did over the course of the years also to play here at the Munich Film Festival. Right. One is the very first film which put you on the map, so to speak, which is Another Country, made in 1984.
Yeah, 30 years old last year.
That's right. I remember as it was yesterday when I saw it in Cannes, so right. It cannot be that long ago. Impossible. But if you think back on that film, it was part of what then has become the new British cinema, right?
Yes.
There was Another Country. You did Dance with a Stranger a year later, I think. Mike Newell's film with Miranda Richardson.
That's right.
So if you think back to that time in British film history, what did it mean suddenly to have something that could be called new British cinema and your part in it?
Well, it just all viewed from today, it feels like another planet, really. You know, because filmmaking has moved along so much and has become such an expensive thing. You know, that film, the first thing, we had a screening of it. It's screening on Friday, and it actually, even though it's a beautifully made film, and it was made for £1 million, and its attention to detail in the design, in the cinematography, in the costume, in everything, considering it was made really for what is now no money at all, is quite extraordinary. And it was very moving for me watching it, because it was just, you know, I know when you get middle age, you start becoming regretful about the past in a way, but there was a different kind of energy on a film set in those days, because there was no monitor. Nowadays, if you go on a film set, you see there's a black tent next to the action, and everybody is inside this black tent looking at tiny little screens of the action. And it makes a kind of detachment between what's happening on a film set and what's happening with the director. Whereas in the old days, or when Another Country was made, you'd walk on a film set and you'd see an actor surrounded by tons and tons of little lights, because there were so many different things you had in those days, and everybody around was like people on a wildlife safari, like watching, because that's the only thing you had, watching the actual thing happening. And you know, there was no grading to do after a film. What you shot was what you got, and so there was what I remembered when I watched the film was this almost sacred kind of thing about filmmaking, which is slightly gone for me these days.
At this point, I would like to open the discussion. So if you have any questions, please
ask them.
Ask them. Make yourself known. So
at the back.
What do you think? Most difficult thing by directing a film where you yourself playing the main character?
I think the whole thing is so impossible that it's not really even possible to think about it, because it's beyond a calculation. I have no idea, because I haven't directed one before. I've simply no idea what's going to be the hardest thing. I think the hardest thing, really, what happens to directors a lot in films is someone says to you at 10 o'clock in the morning, "Oh, come and see the set for this afternoon," and you go there and it's all wrong, and you go, "Fuck this set! What are you doing? I didn't say red pillows, I said blue." And then you have to come back and someone organizes those red pillows and makes them blue. The challenge for me will be, I'll go to that set and then I'll have to come back and act as well. And so I might be in such a queenie, hissy fit that I will just explode on the set. That's my most big worry. But I really don't know what's going to be. The whole thing is going to be very, very... I don't like to say the word hard, because it kind of then means it's going to be. It's not going to be hard, actually. It's going to be a complete adventure, but I don't know how it's going to work. Yes. Ten? Yes, if I'm writing, I don't get up at 10. I get up about 8 and get started. I do get started about 10, but yes, it's easier with a routine. If you've been used to being an actor it's quite a weird change, because we actors are like cows. We just go moo, and then someone pushes us in the right direction, and they milk us. And but if you're writing, you're doing it. You're completely on your own. You've got no one to sound off. You've got no one to say to complain to, except for yourself. And so it is. I found that very difficult. You can get very easily discouraged.
Ja, bitte.
Oh.
Ach so.
Oh my God, there's people up there. Hi. Oh right, hi.
Okay.
My God, I thought I was dying. It was a voice from heaven.
I was about 5 minutes late, so forgive me if you already covered this in your introduction. But my question is, did you ever have like a joyful epiphany and say, I'm going to be an actor, or was it so intrinsic to you that it wasn't a choice?
I did have an epiphany. When I was about 7 years old, or 6, I went to a local cinema and I watched Mary Poppins, and I wanted to become an actress, I'm afraid, and even more than that, I just wanted to be in that. The epiphany was really that, and it was also a lot to do with curtains, because I don't know whether it's the same in Germany, but in England, in the old days, in the big old theatres, they had these kind of pink coral-coloured silk curtains. And if anyone had been listening, and they must have known I was a queen, because I was like, I couldn't believe these silk curtains. And they had lights on them from underneath, and it was just I'd never seen anything like it. Our curtains at home were nothing like this. And the film used to be projected while the curtains were still closed. So there was a kind of ripple in it. You felt completely the opposite of what in fact was happening. It felt like the film was coming out at you. And actually, that's how the great stars, their performances come through the screen at you, as opposed to how it actually comes, which is bouncing off the screen. And it was Mary Poppins. I mean, I know it's not very kind of actor's studio-ish of me to say so, but it was Mary Poppins that started me out.
Okay. And we had
What do I think about everyone's obsession about the royal family? Oh, I think it's quite simple. She represents something which also film stars and musicians do, that you're able to look at yourself in those people. She's been around for everybody's whole lifetime. So it's rather like that thing they say that everyone remembers where they were when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And those kind of experiences, and it's also like when you hear on the radio a record which you fell in love to, or something like that. It's an amazing connection, and I think what people like her do, and why she's so popular and quite clever, is that you can relate your own life somehow to her, because she's been around. You can remember her in the background of every single thing that's happened to you if you want, and I think from the German point of view, it's also a nostalgia for all the little tiny states, the Schleswig-Holsteins, the Hohenzollerns, the thises and that's that have been rejected, but still it's a kind of world that is still absolutely fascinating, and she's terribly clever, because there she goes, she walks around with this very glum face. She's like Andy Warhol, but 10 times more. She doesn't say. She doesn't say anything, and yet she brings with her this mystique, which we in cinema and in music, we don't have anymore, because we've been tweeting and Facebooking diuretically for the last 10 years. We really don't have any more mystery left, but she does have some mystery. There's shadows in her and things that engage our fantasy, and I think. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's rather sweet, and it's for us, the English, of course. It's thrilling that she had a great success in Berlin as well. And we were all on the edge of our seats to see how her and Angela were going to get along, and whether she was going to go to Matzinger. Where does Angela live? Mecklenburg. Working with Madonna was an amazing experience. We did a film. More amazing in a way was working with Madonna and John Schlesinger. John Schlesinger was the director of the film we made, and he was a great friend of mine and a hero of mine, because some of his movies are my very, very favorite films. And I got him onto the film with me and Madonna, and the whole thing was just one disaster after another. And at one point, Madonna had to do a kissing scene with the love interest, and she was very nervous, and she'd had a drink. And she was a bit drunk, and John Stetson just said from behind the camera, "Will someone throw a bucket of water on that slit?" Which was one of the most incredibly rude things I've ever heard. And it was everything. It was the story in my life where everything, I had all the cards at the beginning, and one by one, everything went wrong. But it was also very funny, and a great experience working with her.
Of course, we could go on slipping on many, many banana peels with you for another hour or two, but
we have to go.
We have to go. Thank you so
Thank you very
much,
much,
Rupert,
Thanks very much
for sharing
indeed.
this with us.
Thank you very much.